When Donald Trump gets back to America, he will face his biggest challenge yet. Here it is, pushing through that big, beautiful bill. The crowds you see on your screen right now are outside a committee hearing this morning. Huge crowds for a committee hearing. They're all there to protest cuts to Medicaid. The bill itself, the big, beautiful bill, is a combination of tax cuts, provisions for no tax on overtime or tips, Trump's policy agenda, and repealing much of the Inflation Reduction Act, otherwise known as Joe Biden's agenda. It is the one time for Donald Trump to push through everything he needs in Congress. Donald Trump has remade the Republican Party into a party that champions working-class Americans. He campaigned on it, but the bill continues some of the biggest handouts to the richest Americans on top of cuts to Medicaid, which the working class needs. This includes wild tax loopholes that still exist, state and lifetime gift tax exemptions, 100% depreciation on private jets, the carried interest deduction, which is solely a handout to private equity guys who wear vests and run around Manhattan. With us now, Senator Ted Cruz, Republican for Texas. Fair to say there's also some private equity guys in Texas as well.
There are indeed.
They are indeed. Is this going to be a problem for Republicans to cut Medicaid and keep these deductions?
Well, listen, I think this bill from the House is a very strong bill that was initially introduced. Now, the process, it's going to go back and forth. There's a legislative process. It'll go to the Senate. You know, I think back to 2017. 2017, the first Trump tax cut. The House passed a really strong bill. It went to the Senate, and we made it even stronger. And then it went to conference committee, and it got even stronger after that. And if you look at the 2017 tax cuts, they produced extraordinary results. It produced the lowest unemployment in 50 years, the lowest African-American unemployment ever recorded, and the lowest Hispanic unemployment ever recorded. So here, I think we're going to do the same thing. We're going to have a big, bold, beautiful tax cut, as the president would say. But I think that it'll be a process to get there.
And that 2017 bill also produced continually record budget deficits.
So that's actually incorrect. And in fact, Leland, it is true we had deficits, but the reason is because spending got out of control. Do you know the year after the 2017?
I said what happened in Donald Trump's administration.
But no, you said the tax bill produced it. And my point is, we cut taxes, and you know what happened the next year? The federal government took in more revenue in taxes under lower rates than we had the year before. And every year we've taken in more revenue under lower rates. So the deficits didn't come from cutting taxes. That actually generated more money. What it came from was Congress spending irresponsibly.
Okay, so will the big, beautiful bill take care of that?
Look, I hope so. We will see. That is a fight. I'll tell you, in the Senate...
So I'm on to something.
Yeah, no. There's no doubt Congress spends irresponsibly. The Democrats spent like drunken sailors, and sadly, the Republicans have this problem, too. And so I've been leading the fight for 13 years to get spending under control. But I'll tell you, Leland, this bill in the House, I'm really proud of because there are 4 big victories on priorities I've been fighting for that are in this first draft from the House. Number 1, you mentioned no taxes on tips. That's my bill. I'm the author of it in the Senate. It is in the House bill. That is going to make a real difference for waiters and waitresses and bartenders and everyone who relies on tips. It's
obvious. Number 2.
It is for working class blue-collar workers. Number 2, included in this bill, is auctioning off wireless spectrum, 600 megahertz. That matters because that will unleash billions in investments and create hundreds of thousands of jobs. That's in this bill. I've been leading the fight for that. And then there are 2 other provisions that I believe are legacy provisions that are incredibly important. This bill includes a version of my bill creating national school choice, creating dollar-for-dollar tax credits for scholarships granting organizations. It will be the biggest and most significant federal school choice bill that's ever passed. And then number 4 is a bill that I've been fighting for a year that is called Invest America. And what it does is it creates an investment account for every newborn child in America. It seeds it with $1,000. And then every year, friends and families and employers are able to give up to $5,000 in a tax-advantage account. People can invest in an ETF or a mutual fund invested in the stock market.
All right, 4 very important things.
Yeah.
All wonderful.
Yeah.
I'll get you back to the tax breaks for private jets and yachts. If there are cuts in Medicare and Medicaid and cuts in SNAP benefits, whatever the cuts come, how hard is it going to be for Republicans to defend all these things you just talked about when there's still those tax breaks in there?
So let's take those one at a time. If you look at Medicaid, so there are not cuts in Medicaid, significant cuts in there. What there is is a work requirement for Medicaid. Now, I think a work requirement for Medicaid is a very good thing. Medicaid was designed to take care of the truly needy, of really vulnerable people with severe disabilities, people who are very aged. And what happened under Barack Obama is they expanded Medicaid to young, healthy adults. And so what the House has done, which I've been advocating for a long time, is if you're a young, healthy adult, you should be working and you shouldn't be getting Medicaid and sitting at home just getting a government check. Putting a work requirement, I think, is incredibly beneficial. If you look at welfare reform, which we passed in 1995, it produced millions of people going back to work. And I think putting a work requirement, I don't view as a cut in Medicaid. It's a positive incentive.
That was Bill Clinton. And
a Republican Congress.
And Newt Gingrich. Okay. Yeah. But we can all agree, okay, and I'll get you back to the issue of jets and yachts here. If there are cuts, if there are work requirements, they are going to be framed by Democrats as cuts, right? That's how it's going to happen. How do Republicans then justify not getting rid of the carried interest deduction, not getting rid of the deduction for jets and yachts? If you want to be the populist party that Trump has become, the populist working class party, how do you keep that?
Well, listen, I will say the proposal I would like to see is a simple flat tax where everybody has a big standard deduction, you pay a flat tax, and there are no differences, and everyone pays the same amount on everything. That's what I've introduced, I've advocated for. That's not
going to happen.
It's not going to happen until a president leads the fight to make it happen, but it's not going to happen in this bill. In this bill, we are looking at, in particular, cutting taxes and maintaining low taxes on job creators. And job creators, look, the number one priority of Texans is jobs. My number one priority is jobs. Why did I mention the Spectrum auction? Because it will produce hundreds of thousands of jobs. What did the 2017 tax cuts do? They produced millions of jobs. And so I think if that's our priority, is cutting taxes on job creators and also cutting taxes on working families. And you look at the impact of the provisions I mentioned, no taxes on tips. You look at the impact of school choice and these Invest America accounts. Let me give you a simple stat. A newborn baby born next year, every newborn baby will get an Invest America account. You get $1,000, and if each year you or your family or friends or your parents' employers put $5,000 a year into the account in a tax-advantaged way, at age 18, do you know how much that newborn baby has?
I'm going with 500 or 600.
Not quite that much, but at a 7% growth at age 18, they'll have about $170,000. Okay. And at age 35, they'll have $700,000. Now, you want to talk about transforming society. That is generational wealth accumulation, giving every child in America the benefit of compounded growth.
All good ideas, and I think you can. There's sort of
that's in this bill.
There's a meeting here of $1,000 per kid, and the idea of sort of some kind of payment when people have kids. The encouragement from the White House. I'll try one more time on this though, and this is the question for Republicans. You've said Republicans spend like drunken sailors.
Yeah.
This bill does not restrict that. This bill does not go after any of that. At some point, if Republicans want to have credibility on this, and it's something you've talked about a lot,
you're preaching to the choir.
So do you have to vote against it?
No, of course not. I am going to vote for tax cuts, and I'm going to make them as big and bold as humanly possible. And listen, the House has started to have some spending restraint. We need more. And it is my hope that the Senate will end up being more fiscally responsible. I think there's some real possibility. I'm leaning in on that. And I think that would be incredibly important. But I'll tell you, look, the challenge on spending is on any multi-trillion-dollar spending program. You get all the Democrats, and you get half the Republicans. And so it is a challenge.
And on any one thing, you get a couple of Republicans because it's something for their state.
And so we need spending restraint. Now, I will say this. President Trump with Elon Musk and Doge is going after spending in a way you and I have not seen in our lifetime. So I'm encouraged by that. And I hope we will see more of that in this bill. But the most important part of this bill is cutting taxes, extending the tax cuts, and focusing on jobs and economic growth.
Senator, it's always good to see you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.